Thank you, members. Good evening, members, officers and members of the public. Can I welcome you to this Planning Committee meeting of the 15th of December. As always, a little bit of housekeeping, which I'm sure you know by now, but I have to do this. One I will add, I leave it up to yourselves if you wish to wear face covering this evening, but if you are speaking, please just lower it down so we can hear you clearly. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs, either through the security door to my right, or use the stairs opposite the lifts. Please do not use the lifts. Once you're at the bottom of the stairs, go across to Hawley Square and stay there until an officer feels it's safe to come back in and carry on the meeting. Does anybody intend filming this meeting this evening? Thank you, Mr. Alban. I expected that from you. Restriction of course, mobile phones. Would members please, and members of the public, make sure their phones are turned to silent and not to use them for any purpose to take calls or make calls while this meeting is in progress. Are there any members wishing to speak on 20.1? I can't see any. Had no notification. Thank you. Public speaking, the following application has been reserved for public speaking. Would members please make a note? Item 5A, A01 2021 Bayview Road in Broadstairs. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Hopkinson, who is substituted once again by Councillor Curry, and Councillor Hart, who is substituted by Councillor Pugh. Both welcome. Item 2, declarations of interest. Any members? No, thank you. Agenda item 3, the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting that was held on the 17th of November 2021. Do members agree that the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 17th of 21 be approved and signed by myself? Could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Alban. Second, please. Councillor Coleman-Cook. All in favour? Those who are here? All agreed. Thank you. Moving on to a point of information, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Livingston, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a point of information for members on agenda item 5A, which is 21 Bayview Road this evening. On plan condition number 2, one of the plans stated in the agenda is down as 07A, received on the 3rd of November, which should actually be 07B, received on the 6th of December, which is the plan submitted and on the public website, and therefore the condition is corrected before members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. So agenda item 4 is 17 Northumberland Avenue. I would ask the planning officer, which I believe is Ian once again, to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the application site is outlined in red for number 17 Northumberland Avenue. So the proposal is for the erection of single-storey rear extensions on both sides with a roof extension with a gable end to one element and a flat roof dormer. So members visited the site a couple of Fridays ago. I'm just going to go through all the plans and then and also some photos for those that didn't attend. So if we move through, so this is an aerial image of the area. So the main neighbours that were looked at on the site visit were 11 Lonsdale Avenue, which is this property here, if you can see the mouse. And then there's the property on the corner and the property the other side of the current bungalow. So this is number 17 in the middle here. You've got the two neighbours either side, and then looking from the rear, this is the existing rear of the property. So looking then on the right hand side at the rear, so this projection that's currently in place is quite important, because that's where the proposed rear extension would be coming out to that line, but sort of filling in the square to the left where the current conservatory is. And then looking down the side, so to the right of this photo is down that side access. So this is the area adjacent to the neighbour that's effectively going to be filled in by a rectangular single-storey extension, which is a flat roof design. And then this is turning to the right of that image to look at the neighbouring property with the dormer window on the side there. And then the other side, which shows, you can just see behind the trees here, you can see the roof of a sort of single-storey accretion at the back of the property, which is on the corner, which is the two-storey property. So members walked into the rear garden, and then we went to number 19 first and stood in that garden, then went to number 11, Lonsdale, in that garden, and then went round to number 15. So just going through the plans then, you can see those two sections which are going to be filled in at ground floor. So at the front, you've got this existing elevation, which would then be changed so that you effectively come off the existing ridge height of the property, extending to the side with a roof that pitches away from the frontage with that side gable in this area here. Then looking at the side elevation, so this is the side elevation that faces towards the neighbour with the dormer window. So this roof here we'll see from a different angle from the rear elevation. At single storey level here, this is actually a flat roof element. And then this is the other side elevation facing towards the two-storey property. Again, you can see at the moment the projection of that rear element with the conservatory, and then the roof slope, which we're going to look at in a bit more detail here. And this is the proposal, so you can see that you've got a new gable end creating a first floor at the rear extent of the building at the moment, and then you have a dormer window which is accommodated in a new roof slope which sort of has the ridge height going up to the existing ridge height of the property, which is higher than the ridge of this section at the moment. So then the rear elevation, one thing I mentioned to members on the site visit was that I was going to outline a little bit about the question about permitted development, because obviously that's one of the points that's raised in the agenda about what can be done without needing planning permission at the moment. So within the rear roof slope, what could be accommodated there broadly would involve being able to put a dormer window in the central section of this roof slope here, as annotated by the mouse. Because you have different ridge heights on the properties, you can see from this elevation, a roof extension could go up to, as long as it's below the highest point of the whole roof, so you can see at the top where the ridge terminates here, you could actually have an extension that goes above the roof line of the main body of the roof, but as long as it doesn't go higher than the main pitch, then that could be permitted. It does depend on a few other caveats. So materials have to match in appearance. It does have to, it does have a volume limit. But what you could accommodate is a dormer window with first floor windows facing to the rear in this rear roof slope. Now, one of the important points that I do want to point out to members is when looking at the side elevation, because I think this is the easiest way to see what the impact is, you can see the existing side elevation here of the property. So the rear is on the right-hand side of the image, the rear elevation, and this ridge section, roof section here, is the section which they could extend. Now, what that would mean, because they would need to extend to the rear to basically push past the existing rear elevation of this section that's here. What that means is that any dormer window erected under permitted development would not be as close to the rear boundary as what's being proposed here. But the difference involved is about 1.5 meters. So you're only looking at 1.5 meters additional in terms of that that depth that this extension is proposing from what you could erect under permitted development. And we'll look at what the difference that makes in distance when we look at the block plan in a second. So just to show you then the rear elevation and what's actually being proposed in this this application. So what's happening is the overall ridge is increasing over the existing ridge, but only in that gable end. The main body of the roof is not going higher than the existing roof height of the property. But what you are getting is these first floor windows within the dormer and within this new gable feature. So the area that members were directed to look at in particular were the windows that were on the left-hand side of the image at first floor level. And we'll show this if I click through. If I click through to the block plan in a second. So it's the relationship with the neighbour at the rear in terms of overlooking that's particularly important. In terms of what the actual proposal is doing inside, you've got an existing ground floor plan there showing it as a 3-bedroom property. What's occurring then is that there is extensions at the ground floor level. And then at first floor, what you're doing is you're creating a bedroom. So on the right-hand side of this image, you can see the windows that face to the rear. So you've got a bedroom window within that gable that's created. And then you have an ensuite window in the middle. And then on the left-hand side, if you were to look at it from the rear, you've got another bedroom window. And then this is the existing roof plan of the property. So the front elevation is on the left-hand side and the rear elevation is on the rear. And that shows then the flat roof dormer that's being put in there. So just to clarify with regards to the relationship with the neighbouring properties, it's considered by officers that in terms of the impact on the neighbours either side, number 15 and number 19, that because of the relationship with where habitable room windows are and where the bulk of the property in terms of the extensions are, that it's not considered to cause an impact on the main habitable rooms or cause a loss of privacy from the way that the windows, so the direction that the windows are facing in the extension. In terms of the relationship with the neighbour to the rear, it's acknowledged in the report that there is an impact that would be caused by this proposal, but the weight to be given to the fallback that's available by being able to erect a dormer window in the rear roof slope means that this proposal is considered to be acceptable on that basis. In terms of the difference in distances that we're talking about to the neighbours at the rear, effectively from the existing property, you have about 10.5 metres to the rear boundary that joins number 11. With the new dormer window, the dormer window would be about 12 metres from that boundary. If it was built under permitted development, it would be about 13.5 metres from that boundary. And on that basis, it's not considered that 1.5 metres would change the fact that the relationship of overlooking would be created by what would be permitted development. And therefore, taking into account that as also the impact on the character and appearance of the area, obviously members could see when out on site that there's 2-storey property next door, there are roof extensions on a number of properties, and it's not a fixed character. It is considered that the proposal is acceptable, and therefore it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. I move the officer's recommendation be adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Members, Councillor Orban.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I, like most of us, attended the site visit, and first of all, I'd like to thank the residents at the adjoining properties for letting us come in, muddy their back gardens, etc., with our footprints, and thank them for that, because it was important, I think. But what's lost to here, but just looking at the drawings and the site layout and everything, is the amount of vegetation that's within the adjoining gardens and the gardens of number 17. From my perspective, looking at what's proposed is acceptable. The design's acceptable. I think it fits in. As it stands, the property number 17 is basically dwarfed by either side, the buildings either side. And whilst I was a bit concerned about overlooking at number 11, I take the view of Mr. Livingston, and on the whole, Chair, I think I will go for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Orban. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Chair. Given what could be done under permitted development anyway, and having been on the site visit and seen the neighbouring properties, then I'm quite happy that this fits in with the neighbourhood scene, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Keane. Councillor Joe Bayford.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I did attend the site visit, and I think I agree with everything that Councillor Orban and I think that you've summed it up really. It is dwarfed by the other buildings anyway. So much can be done under permitted development anyway. I feel that the small difference really doesn't cause any more harm. So I will support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. Councillor Roseszki.
Thank you, Chair. I, with the other councillors, also agree that the actual application should be approved. I can't see any problems there because permitted development give them almost that in any case. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Pugh.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a question for Ian, really. Am I right in thinking that under permitted development there would be an increase in the overall floor space more than this application, or is it like for like the exact same?
In terms of floor space, this is more than what would be allowed under permitted development because you've got the ground floor extensions as well, and there's a gable end that would be on the, I suppose, on the south of the properties you look at it on this that's created. So the floor space itself that was created would be created under.
Sorry, Ian, I do apologise. I said that wrong. I meant the overall ground space, particularly on the ground floor, not up in the first floor, ground floor. Will that be the same as under permitted development? Is it going out as far, or is it going out more or less? That's what I was trying to ascertain. Apologies for not being clear.
Thank you. I'm just looking at it. It looks like from, if we just took it as a what would be a I think the side extension as you look at it from which is at the top of the site as you look at it. I don't think that would be covered under permitted development because it's a rear extension to the existing property, effectively, even though it looks like a side, it's actually going off a rear wall as well. But the bit in the corner, as you look at it on the bottom of the image, would likely be covered under permitted development.
Thank you, Ian. Are you happy with that, Councillor Pugh?
I am. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak? And I would like to say on a very damp morning, thank you for those members who did turn up at the site visit, and I certainly understand some can't because of other commitments. Right, I'm going to put this to the vote with yourselves. Those in favour, could they show, please? Any against? Abstentions? That is carried. Thank you very much, members. Thank you. Moving on now to agenda item 5, which is the schedule of planning applications and public speaking. Any site visits that do take place, or if they're agreed tonight, will take place on Friday the 7th of January 2022. Agenda item 5A is the planning application for approval of 21 Bayview Road in Broadstairs. And speaking in favour, and I hope I got this the right way round, is for the application is Mr. Peters. Thank you, Mr. Peters. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. My name's Cecil Peters. I've lived in Broadstairs for over 22 years, and I've always got on really well with my neighbours. And so I'm a little sad and disappointed that we've had an objection to our plan. we were thoughtful about how we built our extension. We didn't go up the full second floor level. We've gone up just below that to be sympathetic to the area. Our two properties are 6 metres, more than 6 metres apart, so there's quite a gap between us. And the house to the left of us was a bungalow, and that's already been extended upwards. So we feel like there's prior in terms of this type of development. We got feedback on our first application that their neighbours thought they'd be overlooked, so we've made sure that the windows have got obscured glass now, and that was in the revised plan. And we've got a smaller window because the windows are really for ventilation on the first floor; they're not for viewing. So we hope that we've covered off those objections. This for us is our forever home, so we're going to really take care. We're going to use the best materials. We're going to put everything into making it a beautiful place and a house that the road will be proud of. So from our perspective, we hope that everything that we're trying to do is intentional and it will be beautiful and it will be our forever home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peters. Speaking, raising points of concern, Mr. Thorne. Again, you have 3 minutes, Mr. Thorne. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I've lived in Thanet for all my life, 57 years of them, and I've never had to complain about something before or object to anything. But it's actually come hard to us. This was meant to be our forever home as well. And unfortunately, it seems like our daylight is being taken away from us and our light. The case officer reported it is not considered that the proposed work will create any additional harm in terms of light reduction and overshadowing. This I beg to differ. If you've seen the pictures that I uploaded, you can see how greatly it reduces it. And I've got photos here with me to substantiate that as well. It can clearly be seen by my photos the impact that will have on the bungalow, and it shows the overshadowing of the property at number 19 on the proposed property of number 21. It was also quoted that the sun disappears behind the dwellings from our south side wall at 11:40. We continue to gain the sun all afternoon. The proposed property is overshadowed as photos showed by the neighbours on their roof height. Having been a regular visit to the previous owner of the proposed property up until August this year, we know firsthand the impact of the overshadowing has. The need of electric lighting during the daytime hours and the loss in heated elements from passive solar gains was evident. Our bungalow, on the other hand, gains all these elements. We don't want to be forced to increase our already utility bills. We no longer benefit and the proposed height additional is accepted. Case officer also quoted difference in height is a minor increase. I consider over 2 metres not a small amount. Any height would cause harm in the terms of light reduction and overshadowing. The design does not mirror number 19 as quoted by the case officer. Photos show the roof length of number 19 does not run the full length of the bungalow, and only a small frosted window is evident at the rear. Number 21 proposed plans include a roof line the full length of the bungalow, including 2 windows serving as bedrooms. This will impact on the privacy of our rear garden due to the fact that our garden sits at a higher level than that of our property. We have worked very hard Sorry.
I'll give you a moment, Mr. Thorne.
We've worked very hard on our property, and it was meant to be our forever home for our retirement in a sunny bungalow. Now it has caused us to suffer from mental health issues and stress. I applaud you to consider my objections. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Sorry you feel getting upset.
I am very upset. I am really upset.
If we can leave that at that, please. I will ask the planning officer to outline the report and ask Emma, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the application site outlined in red here. So it fronts onto Bayview Road, and you can see Dumpton Park Drive is on the right-hand side here. This area in between is an open grassed area, so you can see the property from Dumpton Park Drive. To the rear of the site is the railway line. This is the application property here. So this is number 21 Bayview Road. And you can see on the left, there's two-storey dwellings. And this is again showing property to the left. So this is number 19 Bayview Road. And then you can see the two properties to the left of that, number 17 and 15 Bayview Road. Number 15 has had alterations recently to extend, and you can see it's quite a modern design. And then this is to the right-hand side. So this is looking to the neighbour, number 23 Bayview Road. So this is the property raising some concerns regarding the impact of the light. And you can see the gap between the existing properties, and you can see the ground level, a slight ground level change between the two properties. And then again, this is looking at number 23, and this is a closer view looking towards the side elevation of number 23. So you can see there's existing windows and a door within this side elevation with a setback garage. And again, you can see the distance between the properties. So the application is for a first floor extension above the bungalow to create a two-storey dwelling, a single-storey rear extension, a single-storey extension to the front of the garage, and at first floor level there's a balcony also proposed to the front elevation. So this is the existing layout of the existing bungalow. So you can see the garage to the bottom of this slide. So the proposal was to extend this to the front here. And then you can see this is the proposed ground floor extension. So this area here is the proposed rear extension. So the rear extension is 2.65 metres deep, and it's set away from the boundary by approximately 2 metres. You can see in the bottom here, this is the front projection of the garage area. So from this point here to here, so the garage projection is 1.97 metres. And then this is the proposed first floor extension. So this would achieve 4 bedrooms at first floor level. And you can see there's a balcony at the front elevation looking towards the road. Within the side elevation, there's 3 windows, and that's looking towards number 23. So 2 of those serve bathrooms, and 1 of them is a secondary bedroom window. And then there's a further window along this elevation serving the landing. So from the front, this is the existing front elevation of the property. So you can see again, pitch roof, bungalow, traditional design with the side garage. And this is the proposal. So you can see in terms of the first floor extension, the increase to eaves level is approximately 2.2 metres. So in terms of first floor level, the eaves level is slightly below the level that you would expect if it was a full 2-storey height. So it is a slightly dropped eaves level. In terms of the ridge height, the ridge is increasing by 2.2 metres beyond the existing ridge height of the bungalow. You can see that the front elevation is changing in terms of material, so they're proposing to clad the front elevation with timber cladding. And in terms of the glazing, you can see it's quite a modern design, and it's proposed to have grey, either UPVC or aluminium windows. The balcony is located in this area here with glazed balustrading, and this is a projecting balcony. And this area to here is a boundary wall, so it's not an extension, it's a wall containing a gate to the right-hand side. This is the existing south elevation, so you can see the existing garage on the left-hand side here and the existing windows. So it's looking at the floor plans and looking at the layout, it would appear that this bungalow is likely to have a similar layout to the neighbour, number 23, which, as you can see from the photos I showed you, they also had 2 side windows. So it's believed that this one would serve the bedroom window, and this one a kitchen. And then this is the proposed side elevation. So you can see here the front garage projection. You can see the first floor extension and the balcony projection at the front. So the proposed garage will block out their existing ground floor side window. And then this is the hallway window at first floor level. and you can see the rear projection again at a single story level. Then this is the elevation facing number 23. So this is the existing side elevation facing the property, and this is the proposed side elevation. So again, you can see the balcony projection to the front. There's the proposed windows at first floor level. So these two central windows were the windows serving the bathrooms, and this high level window was the secondary window to the front bedroom. And additional windows proposed at ground floor level, and again to the rear, this is the single story extension. And then in terms of the rear extension, rear elevation even, this is the existing, and this is then the proposed. So this is the rear elevation of the existing garage, which is being altered slightly. This is the proposed rear extension, which again you can see with large glazed doors. Again, you can see the cladding at first floor level, and on the left-hand side here, that's the boundary wall that's along the front of the site. So again, not an extension, but a boundary wall that would provide side access. So in terms of the actual character and appearance, as you saw from the elevations, it's quite a modern design, and again, it's created a two-storey dwelling. But as you can see in this photo, properties off to the left-hand side. This property here is similar in appearance. It's not the same, but very similar in appearance. It has the same shallow roof pitch and also has quite extensive glazing and the balcony at first floor level. And again, you can see on the left-hand side here, again, quite a very modern design. So in terms of the actual design of the development, it's not considered that the height or the scale or the appearance would be out of character of the area, given the fact that these are properties off to the left-hand side of the existing building. But the concern is potentially the impact on the neighbour. So when looking at the impact on the neighbour, I'll just go back to this block plan here. So no part of the extension is coming closer to the boundary with the neighbouring property, but the concern is with the increase at first floor level of the creation of the first floor extension by the 2.2 metres and the impact on the windows within this side elevation here. So there is a distance of 6.5 metres between this elevation and the existing elevation of number 21. As mentioned, it's understood that it's likely that this is a primary bedroom window in this location here. And if it's based on the floor area that we have before us for this property, then this would be a secondary kitchen window. If that's the case, obviously in terms of outlook, there's already limited outlook given the fact that the windows are facing onto the existing boundary treatment for the property. So at ground floor level, given the fact this is a bungalow, there's already limited outlook for these windows. So the main issue is the impact on light. Now with the increase in height, there will be some impact on these windows in terms of impact on light. This is north facing elevation. So in terms of the increase in height, as the sun comes round from the east to the south, this increase in height will have some impact on the light to these windows. But we have to consider whether the impact is significant enough to warrant refusal. And in this instance, given the distance and given the fact that these are side-facing windows, it's not considered that the impact will be significant enough for us to warrant the refusal of the application on the increased height of the building. In terms of the rear extension, it's not considered that this would have any significant impact on the windows of the neighbouring property. Again, this is a garage here, and there's still a distance of approximately 2 metres from this point here, which also is similar rear building line to the neighbouring garage. And whilst first floor side windows are proposed, it's annotated on the plans that these would be obscure glazed to serve bathrooms, and the one bedroom window would be high level, so it's not considered that these windows would actually cause a loss of or significant loss of privacy for the neighbouring property. I think the neighbour mentioned the potential loss of privacy from the first floor rear windows, but when we assess applications, we have to look at whether it's direct overlooking or indirect overlooking. In this case, it would be indirect overlooking because the main view from these first floor windows would be to the rear, looking towards the railway, and would not be resulting in significant loss of privacy for this rear garden area here due to the angle of the windows. At the front, the balcony is unlikely to result in significant loss of privacy either, because it's mainly, again, looking towards the road area or to the frontage of this property where it's more for parking but not actually private amenity space. In terms of this garage projection here, it's very minor, only 1.9 metres deep, and there's limited windows along this site. It's not considered that this would result in significant harm. It's flat roof, so it's not considered this extension would cause harm to number 19. So just to show you again, this side elevation of the neighbour, the existing windows, this is the 6.5 metre gap, and then the increase of the 2 metres. As mentioned, it's not considered that this would actually be significantly harmful enough for us to warrant refusal on the impact on this window alone, because as you can see, this appears to be a secondary window serving this room here, with their main primary window being at the front. So overall, it is considered that the application is acceptable and is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. I move the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Members, Councillor Keane.
Thank you. It's just a question. What's at number 25? Is that a two-storey building or what?
Can you go back on it?
No, it's another bungalow. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Garner.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of concerns. I've listened to the officer's report, and there are a number of issues that, taken in isolation, may not be good enough reason to seriously consider rejecting this proposal. The loss of light issue on its own, maybe losing some light during a day, may not be on its own good reason to consider refusal. I am concerned that this is basically a total conversion from one of a number of bungalows in that area to a house, basically. And I can understand there are other buildings the other side that are houses, but this is an area where there is a mix of bungalows and houses, and I think if we keep picking off bungalows in the area and converting them into houses, you know, it's a steady sort of drip effect that we end up with no bungalows left in the area. And I think it's important that, you know, there is this mix. So I think there could be a good reason to consider refusing this on the basis of it does affect the character and appearance of the area, because it helps convert the area from a mixed development to totally houses. So I mean, I obviously want to hear what other people might have to say, but I will need to be convinced, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Councillor Bayford.
Thank you, Chair. I disagree. I think that the street scene is so varied. I cannot honestly see how this alteration would upset the general street scene, how it would be out of keeping. I can see that there is some harm to the neighbours, but I have to say I think it's minimal, and I think lengths have been taken to lessen the harm. Nobody likes change, but I think overall it's a good design, and I feel that I would like to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. Councillor Pugh.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I disagree with Councillor Garner's comments, not because I don't like Councillor Garner, I think he's great, but I think that the street scene has changed enough, it's changed already to warrant further change. If this was the first of the entire row of that, then I'd be more concerned. But I think it's already, the street scene is already evolving, and I think it's hard to justify any of the properties going above the ground floor when others already have. My only question to the planning officer would be that in relation to the variance in height between 21 and 23, the nearby neighbours, and the varying of elevation, does that impact on the ground floor windows on that side not being frosted? As in, I suppose the question I'm asking is that does the fence line cover that for sufficient privacy, or is that an issue because of the raised elevation of property number 21?
Can you bear with us, Councillor Pugh?
Sorry, I'm just trying to find the right elevation. So I think these two are existing windows, just flicking back to the existing floor plan. So that's the existing floor plan at ground floor level. So there's one large window already serving the bathroom. So it is likely to be an obscure glazed window facing the neighbour. And then the proposal is for the shower room window, what appears to be a utility room, and then I think that looks like it's the existing window that's probably been broken down into two separate windows because it's a similar width. And then this appears to be the new window going in, which is serving the cinema room. So that window is this window here. Now looking, I mean, this bit here is the new wall that's going in up to the boundary. But looking back at that photo, I'm not quite clear on what the actual boundary treatment is. It looks like it's quite low actually.
Apologies. So my question is then, is that all seems fine. The kind of floor to ceiling window at the back that's being proposed, will that impact on privacy?
In the rear elevation?
Yeah. So sorry. No. On the side elevation, the kind of extension at the back, there's a floor to ceiling window. It looks like if you go to the side bit of those four windows,
this
one
here?
there. Will that impact because of the change in elevation? Will that impact on privacy to do with the fence line?
I don't know what the boundary treatment is for that rear garden.
If I may, so the rear, the rear window. If you go to sorry, you got on the wrong one. Yeah, there we go. So the floor to ceiling one is at the rear. So that's actually directly adjacent to what's effectively a garage on the neighbouring property that's to the side, and it's obviously it's to the rear where obviously there is the boundary fence, as Emma's just said. The existing boundary fence actually means that the windows that are in the property at the moment towards the front on the side elevation are actually visible. You know, you can see them over the fence because the fence isn't actually that high, but because of where this window is to the rear, with the relationship with the existing garage that's there, it's not considered they would be overlooking. And also there's the added element, I suppose, is that, you know, you could add ground floor side windows into the existing building, but obviously you're correct to identify this because this is the expanded section of the extension. But no, it's not considered that they would be overlooking because of the level difference in this instance from the rear.
Thank you, Ian. You can't quite have with that, Councillor Pugh?
That answers my question. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Grindon. Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't sure where you were looking. My ears didn't hear my name properly.
I got your name right that time.
You did, yes, and you weren't even looking at it. I have some real mixed feelings and really undecided at this moment. And I'm partly with Councillor Garner on this. If I only look to the left of the property, I think this is a fantastic, beautiful design. I really like the look of it. But I can see a domino effect working downhill that is like one gets converted in from a bungalow to a house, and then the next one and the next one. And the impact of that is around the question about sunlight and the direction of the sun, which is the major part of the loss, because the concern is coming from number 23, which is then going to be overshadowed. And so I was wondering if we could look again back at the direction of sunlight and the degree of impact of the loss of that natural light on the bungalow and warmth from the sun in the summer.
If I may just come in, we mustn't preempt what might happen in the future. I do understand what you're saying about once something happens, but if you don't mind me saying that too.
Okay. Apologies. It was just what it appears to have happened so far.
Totally understand, but Emma, can you?
So this is the block plan again. So you can see this is showing the it's north, obviously, in this direction here. So this first floor extension will be having some potential impact on this side elevation of number 23. It's difficult to know exactly how much what that impact will be, but 6.5 metres is quite a good distance between the properties. And the increase in height, because of the eaves level of the property being kept quite low, it's an increase of 2 metres. If it was a full extra floor and roof being added on, an extra floor is usually around 2.4 metres, and then if you had a roof on top, it could be higher. So if it was a full 2-storey building with a pitched roof on top, it would be a lot taller. So they have attempted to keep it as low as possible, with the eaves now only going up the 2.2 metres. I think directly opposite, because there's a change in level from front to back as well as between the plots. There's a difference depending on where you are with the property. So at the opposite the window of the neighbouring property that's got a concern, it's 2.1 metres the increase, so it's slightly less directly opposite that window. So it's just our view that with that distance and the fact it is a side-facing windows, primary main windows are usually in the front and rear elevations. It's appreciated this is a window serving a bedroom, and it is the only window serving that bedroom. But at the same time, it is side-facing. It does have limited outlook and light anyway, just because of the fact it is facing onto a side boundary and facing towards another property anyway. So it's just a matter of judgment as to whether this increase in height is going to have a significant harmful impact upon the light to that window. And with this distance and with the height increase, it's not considered that the impact would be significant.
Thank you, Emma. Wish to come back?
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry, I was thinking, you haven't really answered my question about the direction of the sun, the north, south, east, west direction. Could we just, it was mentioned earlier, but could we just go back to that?
Well, the sun is coming up in this direction here, over to the east. It's coming along the south here, so middle of the day it will be down here. So at that point, so in the mornings, there would be limited impact on light from the sun coming up, and then as it's coming round at this point here, that's when that would be blocking some light through to the window, because the window's over here. So with this being first floor level, at the point of the sun reaching this point, that's when there would be some loss of light, and that will carry on round the afternoon, presumably up to the point of early evening, when there may be some sun potentially back there, although it's probably going to be blocked by the existing properties or the neighbouring properties garage at that point. So the main light will still be just in the morning, and there will be some impact probably throughout the day from that increased height. Is that answering it?
Thank you. Mr. Thorne, I'm sorry, I can't let you come back in. I'm sorry. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chairman. I've also got mixed views, but for me, it's looking at the other properties, the other 2-storey properties. The materials that are being used are quite different, and I'm wondering if something could be done alternatively to timber, just to soften the overall look. The existing properties haven't got timber. They're kind of the walls are faced. I'm just wondering if it could not have the timber panels and something softer.
Councillor Wright, bring Emma back. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, what these photos aren't showing is the overall context of where this is. So this is a road that you can see from Dunton Park Drive, and in Dunton Park Drive, if you drive along there, you can see a huge mix of materials, heights, designs. You don't tend to get 2 properties that look the same along that road, and this will be seen within the context of Dunton Park Drive. And it's a shame probably that we haven't got any photos showing the other side of Dunton Park Drive, because then you probably would see a lot more timber cladding, because there is a lot along that road. So I think whilst you're looking at the photos that we put before you, which are showing it in relation to these 3 properties to the side, which are mainly rendered with some brickwork, I think in the overall context of the area, it's not actually going to appear out of keeping, given the range of materials.
Thank you, Emma. I don't see any other members wishing to. Councillor Patmore.
Thank you, Chair. I live nearby, and how I live is I wouldn't live in a house without any sun shining on it when it's sunny. But a case like this, it's only going to lose, I think, maybe 2 hours a day, or 3 at the very most, because the sun comes up down here and it works its way around. So it's going to be before that house covers or stops the bungalow getting light, it's going to be, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then by 4 o'clock, the sun is over that side and it's working its way around the back. So they could, apart from that, if the people at number 21, they could always plant 20-foot conifers in their back garden like I've had to deal with. And that is a nuisance, but it can be done.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Well illustrated.
Thank you.
Those, thank you. Any other members wish to speak? Councillor Rosewski.
Chair, looking at the design and everything, and having driven past that area probably thousands of times, I don't see an issue with the design because there is a very big mix of properties going down Dumpton along that area, so I don't see a problem with the design. Again, they've kept the height down quite well. It's not a major issue. I think I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, members, I can't see any other who wish to speak, so I'm going to put the officer's recommendation to you, which is for approval. For those who agree, please show their hands. Against? Abstentions? That is carried. Thank you, members. Thank you for that. Right, once again, moving on, that concludes public speaking at this meeting. I will call upon James now to read out the remaining planning applications. If a member, as always, wishes to reserve an application, will they please shout at me? Thank you. James.
Thank you, Chair. So the remaining 2 items then, first one, 5B for approval, which is 9 Holly Road, Ramsgate. And 5C, defer and delegate to officers, which is Beach Lodge, Old Boundary Road, Westgate-on-Sea. Okay.
Councillor Garner. It's Christmas. Bear with me a moment, please. Members, if I could have a proposer for the one which isn't going to be discussed, that's 5B. Councillor Pugh, thank you, seconded by Councillor Bayford. If members agree? Thank you. Right, I'm passing over to Emma for the item Beach Lodge, Old Boundary Road in Westgate.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the site here. So this is Beach Lodge. You can see to the south is the old boathouse. The neighbouring property is quite a distance from Beach Lodge. And then here is 1 to 3 sandy villas, which are 3 new build houses on the corner here, located to the rear of the former Knot Pub. This is the Beach Lodge in this location here. So this is an old Google image. So you can see this was the car park area associated with the Knot, but this is now the location of 3 houses that have been constructed here. And then this is just from above. So you can see Beach Lodge in this location here. And again, you can see this is the neighbouring property. There's quite a distance in this location. And so the site lies within the conservation area. The property is not listed, but the consideration has been given to the heritage assets of the property, and it's considered that it may be classed as a non-designated heritage asset. So this is the building, this is Beach Lodge. So it's an existing 4-bed dwelling, although it's not clear if it's really 4-bed. It's 4-bed at first floor level, and then there's other bedrooms or rooms at ground floor level, which potentially could also be used as bedrooms. And then there's also some space at basement level as well. This is to the left of the property, so you can see existing side access to the rear of the property. And then this is the garden here of the old boathouse. And this again is the old boathouse on the left, looking towards the application property on the right. And again, looking towards the application property, which is this one here. So in terms of the front elevation, there's very few alterations to the front elevation or the side elevation. Most of the works are at the rear. Then this is to the right hand side, and you can see now the newly built dwelling to the right of the property. And this is now from the rear, looking towards the existing rear elevation. And again, you can see this on the left hand side, one of the 3 new dwellings that have been constructed. And again, further out, you can see again those dwellings. And then this is a car park area, which is used by the residential units here and the residential units within the former Knott pub. Sorry, it's not very clear, but this is the site plan showing the plot and then the extensions at the rear. And also this is also not a very clear plan, but basically what is happening is it's a 4-bed dwelling, and they are subdividing it to create 2 2-bed dwellings. So there will be a dividing boundary wall created through the middle of the rear garden. So these would be individual gardens linked to the property. There would be a side access that would allow for refuge to be brought out to the front of the property and cycle access. And there's cycle storage within the rear garden. And then this is showing the existing front elevation, and this is the proposed front elevation. So very few changes. I believe it's just some changes within the front door area. And in terms of the light wells, one of these is being expanded at basement level just to create more light into the basement. And then this is the existing side elevation facing the old boathouse, and that's the proposed. So again, you can see no changes within that side elevation. And this is the rear elevation. So this is the main change. So this is the extension that's taken place. So it's a 3-storey extension tying in with the existing rear projection of the building. So you can see this is the existing dormer. They're looking to erect 2 additional dormers of the same design and size to the rear elevation. This is an amended plan. So the original plan did show 2 large flat roof dormers within this roof space. And it also showed a new window going in this location here, which was, I believe, casement windows, so out of keeping with the sliding sash design that you can see at existing first and second floor level. So it's been amended to remove the dormers following concerns that were raised, and also to change this window design back into a sliding sash design in keeping with the other windows. At ground floor level, you can see that French doors with floor to ceiling glazing are going in. And then this is the other side elevation, and again, no changes actually within the elevation, but this is then that rear extension. So you can see it's going down to basement level. I believe there's some excavation work going on at basement level in order to create some access into the basement. And then this is just showing the floor plan. So this is the existing basement floor plan. So you can see there's currently 3 rooms there, showing that there's potentially some access at this point here, and then they're looking to excavate this area so that they can come out from this lounge area through the French doors up the stairs to the raised garden area. So this is the subdivision. You can see the wall running through the middle, so you've got a lounge in each property at basement level. You can see the light well at the front here, that's being expanded, so it's the same as the light well on the right hand side. And then this is the existing ground floor, existing ground floor with the lounge, and it shows just 2 rooms on the left hand side here. And this is the proposed, so this is the large kitchen area, and this is the bathroom at the front. So again, the same for both properties. And then first floor level, it's currently shown as 4 bedrooms with a bathroom, and then they're just looking to infill this corner area in order to create 2 spacious bedrooms at first floor level with en suites. And then nothing is taking place at roof level now. So previously the plan did show a third bedroom in each of the properties at roof level, but that has now been removed. And again, this is now just showing the roof plan, so you can see the 2 additional dormers and the extension. So the main issues are the impact on the conservation area. The conservation officer has raised a few concerns. Previously was raising concerns with the dormer windows, which have now been removed, and the window. But even after the plans haven't been amended, there is still some concern from the conservation officer with the ground floor French doors and the modernising of the appearance of the building, which she considers to have quite a heritage appearance and potentially is a non-designated heritage asset. So concerns are raised to do with that. But in terms of the case officer's view, in terms of the conservation area, that they would be at ground floor level, and you actually, in terms of the views towards the building, you wouldn't actually really get a true feeling of those additional doors going in because of the boundary wall that runs around the site. So it would have very limited impact on the conservation area from that addition. In terms of the extension, as long as the bricks are in keeping with the existing bricks, then it's not considered there's really going to be significant harm. This extension is set back behind this rear elevation, so it's actually not projecting any further than this rear elevation. The dormers will tie in with the existing dormer, and the window proportions will be similar, so it will be in character with the existing property, and it's not considered there will be real significant harm to the conservation area. Concern has been raised with the fact there's no parking on the site, but given the fact it's at least a 4-bed unit at the moment going to 2 beds, then there's not considered to be any significant increase in vehicle movements as a result of the fact that the bedrooms are not increasing. And in terms of the neighbouring impact, the additional windows that would be within this extension and within the dormers would be looking towards the parking area and the rear gardens of the properties themselves, and would not result in any significant overlooking to neighbouring properties. And this extension itself, as I said, is set back behind this rear elevation, and therefore is not going to be having any light or outlook impact. So overall is recommended for defer and delegate subject to the legal agreement for the SPA contribution, with the impact on the conservation area by officers being considered acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. I move the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Thank you, yeah. Thanks. There were 3 main reasons why I thought it was important that we actually discussed this application. Having read the report and read a number of the objections from neighbours and other locals, and from Westgate Town Council. The first of these relates to the fact that this is a non-designated heritage asset, and the conservation officer was actually quite vehement in her objection to the application proposed. I think not necessarily because of the impact on the conservation area, but as much to do with the fact that this important asset is being altered. I did read a little bit into it, and apparently there was a famous local resident from the 19th century had this built, John Grieveson, who was one of the first builders and inhabitants of Westgate. So I'm actually quite surprised that it isn't a listed building, but obviously that's not down to us or me. But so that was one of the concerns I thought we ought to consider. The other concern I have, which is raised by a number of people, relates to the biodiversity in the back garden, the trees and hedges, which haven't been mentioned. I know on the plans that because this is being split into 2 units, there are 2 gardens being created at the back, and I can see there's obviously going to be alterations. There's obviously going to be some removal of some of those trees and hedges, and there isn't any tree report or anything like that, and there isn't a landscaping plan. So I would have liked to have seen consideration given that we could at least get some conditions on here that made the developer at least replant significant number of trees and hedges if some are removed. And the third issue, which has been mentioned, is about the car parking. And yeah, I accept it's moving from it's still going to have the same amount of bedrooms, but this is 2 separate units now, so there are more likely to be more car owners living in this unit, much as I'd like to see car ownership dwindle over the years. There are likely to be more car owners because there's more likely to be more adults who own cars in either unit. So those are my concerns, and I obviously would be interested to hear what other members might have to say to alleviate some of my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garner. Councillor Orban.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I like it. I have to say, you know, I think the design is great. We're going from 1 dwelling to 2, and you know, it's not a listed building. Obviously, it's situated within the conservation area. It doesn't matter who's lived there before. We're dealing with this now, and not only that, I think in any heritage buildings that we have, they've all been altered, changed all over the years, and you know, we've had large buildings put into flats, etc., etc. So yeah, I don't see that as an issue. In relation to the tree in a conservation area, it is protected under law. So unless they make an application to remove the tree will remain and be protected. And I don't know whether there are hedges there, but even if there are, as it stands at the moment, the hedges are not protected in law for here within that conservation area, and it could be grubbed out, whatever. I just think I think the parking issue is a bit of a mismatch. Is a bit of a nothing, to be quite honest. We all suffer from parking. We all suffer, you know, and you know, maybe then, you know, where's the electric parking charges gonna go when we all get electric cars and whatever? But overall, I think the design's good. I think the going from 1 dwelling to 2, I have no objection to it, Chair. I just think it's a good development, so I'll be supporting the development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Orban. Councillor Bayford.
Thank you, Chair. I share Councillor Garner's concern that there's no tree report. Is this just because the tree can't be changed in a conservation area? I don't know. And there's no landscaping. However, I think it's a very, very clever design. I think, you know, to make 2 well-designed properties with very little change at the front, so as not to affect the conservation area, I think it is very, very clever design. And yes, it's a pity that there isn't no tree report. I'd be interested to know what is going to happen to the tree that's there at the moment. But in every other respect, I would support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. I'm not sure whether Emma has... Yep, Ian's taken that on.
Thank you, Chair. So the image that you can see shows, you can see there's a tree that's obviously lost its leaves in the winter, which is pretty much on the boundary between this site and the new dwellings. That is primarily the main tree on this site. Is there an aerial image? So we're just going to see if there's an aerial image, which this sometimes we'd usually put in. Oh, there we go. But actually, there we go. It's a little bit low res, so it doesn't quite work. If you carry on going forward, apologies, members, bear with us. Keep going forward. Just the view of the side, the left-hand side of the beach lodge as you look at it. There we go. Yes, so you can see in this image a number of trees which are on the boundary with Old Boundary Road, and the tree. And so there aren't any trees that are in the middle of the properties. The Beach Lodge properties garden that's proposed to be removed. Obviously, in terms of the considerations when it's a tree in a conservation area, is whether or not we would TPO those trees. We do hear what's been said with regards to concerns about, well, what's that rear garden going to look like? Because I think on the site plan it does show simply a sort of a lawned area rather than anything else. And I think from discussions that we've just had with regards to this, if members were particularly concerned about the need for planting on this site in the rear garden, because there's going to be a new boundary treatment in the middle, so there is a change at the back there, that a condition could be added that prior to occupation there would be some information provided about soft landscaping at the rear, which would allow officers to look at, what could be retained, because obviously the trees are actually on the boundary in this site, so they don't necessarily need to go. They're not of substantial size that I think would necessarily warrant a TPO, but it will allow us to consider what's being proposed in terms of landscaping at the rear. And I think we officers would be happy to add that condition on if, excuse me, and if the chair would also be minded to do that and get agreement from the vice chair, then we could add that onto the motion if that was considered appropriate.
Well, I've been told to do something, haven't I? So, yes, I do propose that, and I'm sure it makes sense. Councillor Coleman Cook was second.
I will second that, Chair.
Thank you. Do you all agree? Agree. Thank you. Councillor, I will bring back, but I've got Councillor Pugh, Councillor Garner first.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be agreed, and appreciate that. And I understand it might not be a very substantial tree, and in one view not warrant a TPO, but maybe placing a TPO on it would enable it to become a substantial tree at some stage in the future. So, your proposed changes around the landscaping plan are very good and helpful. So thank you very much. I would just like to come back just on something that Councillor Alban said about conservation and conservation areas. And I understand what he's saying. I'm about some buildings being changed, whether they're heritage assets or listed buildings or whatever. I'm always keen to pay heed to what our officers say in their reports, and the conservation officer in her report was quite vehement in her view that she very much objects to the application proposed and suggested that it is appropriately reconsidered. So that was why I wanted to make sure her feelings were heard at the meeting. We might not agree with her, and we might think otherwise, but I just wanted to make sure that was understood by everybody.
Thank you very much. I did spot that myself, but it's yourselves, Councillor Pugh.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I was going to raise concerns about the vegetation and trees at the back, but that's already been addressed, so that's brilliant. I quite like it. I think it looks quite good. I think that it's a good idea to divide up a building. We always have a shortage of smaller residences, particularly in Westgate and around the coast, and I think this is a good idea. I do have a slight concern about parking, particularly out the front. From my recollection, Old Boundary Road is never really particularly busy, but only in the summer. But then I think that's part and parcel with living so close to a nice beach. I do wonder that although it is in a conservation area, does that mean that less weight is added to that, particularly as externally the facade at the front isn't changing, particularly in relation to the new builds to the right of the property? Does that then impact on the wider conservation area? And I only ask that because there's such a contrast between this property and the adjacent ones, whether residents or anyone agrees with them or not. But considering the rest of that road, they do look quite out in keeping. So will this change, even just dividing up this property, exacerbate that and make that worse, or is it viewed that it won't? I'm just like a bit of clarity on that.
Thank you, Councillor Pugh. I'll take your point there, Emma.
I don't think there's a real concern from our point of view regarding the subdivision and the impact on the conservation area from that point of view. I think, as you've mentioned, I think the front elevation is probably the most important aspect of this building, and this is not changing. I think there's potentially a change to the front door maybe, but other than that, all of the windows remain the same. There's no change at all to any of the brickwork, and the only other change was that the light well on the left-hand side was being slightly deepened. So in terms of the conservation area, I think the main views of this building, because obviously it's opposite an open space and we've got tennis courts opposite, so the main sort of the significance of this building is the front elevation really, and the views you get of it across the open space. So I think whilst the conservation officer has raised concerns and in terms of this building being a non-designated heritage asset, it's difficult because it still doesn't have listed status, and therefore we can't be considering just the impact, the harm to just the building itself. We still have to be considering what visual impact that alteration is having on the area. So whilst the building itself we think has maybe more merit than other buildings potentially within the conservation area, we still have to argue that there's harm in order for us to refuse the application. And I think the concern with the extension is that it's quite a minor extension really, infilling a corner of a building, not coming out any further than the existing rear elevation, and with quite sympathetic dormer design that's in keeping with the existing dormer that's on the property. So I think it's difficult for us to really make the argument that the infill of this very small extension, whilst it is at ground and first floor level, and you will have views of that across the car park. I think, like you mentioned, the fact that we do have 3 modern houses right next to it, it makes it difficult for an argument that this small extension is going to be resulting in significant harm when you've got these buildings next door that are very different in appearance. So I think that's our view.
Thank you for that, Emma. Councillor Curry.
Chair, can I just say, I think the changes at the rear of the property and the 2 added dormers actually improve the look of the building, and I think it looks very impressive at the rear of the building now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. I can't see any other speakers, so I will put this to you members. It is for defer and delegate. Those in favour? Against? There is abstentions. There isn't. That is carried. Thank you, members. That concludes the meeting tonight. But before you all fly away, I think it's my duty to say thank you for this year. I think so. I know I should. Interesting year, being on telly for a few months, and obviously being back in here for a few months. But can I wish you all, your families, officers as well, a very happy Christmas, and please stay, with all what's going on in this crazy world, stay safe. Yes, you can. No doubt the whole wide world's heard that as well. So thank you, members, and all the best to you. Thank you.